Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Daily Athenaeum Super Sports Monday with DA Sports Editor David Statman. And as always, I'm joined by DA Associate Sports Editor Chris Jackson. We've had a big week of basketball to talk about. West Virginia finishing off their regular season schedule with a big 69-58 win over Baylor. And we got the Big 12 tournament coming up. This is a wonderful time to be a Mountaineer fan because they have locked up second place in the Big 12 after they were voted to finish sixth in the conference before the season. And still Bob Huggins doesn't win Coach of the Year.
And they were unranked too. Again.
They were unranked again.
And let's think about it too. Last year, Sporting News projected them to finish ninth in the conference. All of a sudden, Press Virginia just comes, and look what Huggins has done. I mean, he didn't win Coach of the Year, but you have to admit Tubby Smith did deserve that.
That's a Texas Tech program that is basically an irrelevant pile of trash, and he has somehow shaped it into a facsimile of an actual program. So congratulations to Tubby. He did win a national championship when he was at Kentucky in 1973. But, I like him because he looks like a huggable teddy bear of a man. And his name's Tubby.
And you were 25 years off on the national championship.
I know I was. I was exactly 25 years off.
Yep.
Jamal McGlure was on that team, future NBA All-Star. One of the most obscure All-Stars of the last 20 years, Jamal McGlure. That's just a fun fact for you. But WVU with finishing off the season sweep of Baylor, a team that absolutely murdered them last year.
Beat them three times
last year, and WVU came back and really looked the better team in both their wins. They go up against Baylor on the road. Always a tough place to win a game, and just a really nice all-around performance. It was a sloppy game, but they got the job done. And, Jay-Sean Page leading the way again, 14 points. Devin Williams had another really rough shooting night, 1 for 9. Did contribute 11 rebounds. And I think one of Javon Carter's best games of the year, 8 assists, and just great defense as always.
Well, Huggins said it was Javon's best game since he's been here. I mean, Javon's had great shooting nights last year. You saw there were some games when he could just shoot from long range, but 8 assists and 3 steals. He was all Big 12 defensive team that was announced today. And Page, congratulations to Page for being the 6th man of the year in the Big 12. He deserved that. He averaged 14 points over the regular season.
And it was a stat that I found last week. Jay-Sean Page has the highest points per minute average of any WVU player in the 21st century, including Pittsnoggle, who scored 20 points. Deshaun Butler. None of them scored as much at such as high a rate than Jay-Sean Page has, averaging about 14 points in not a lot of minutes, about 22 minutes a game because of coming off the bench and having foul trouble. WVU really well represented in the Big 12, all Big 12 awards. Like you said, Jay-Sean, 6th man of the year. He's also second team all Big 12 with Devin Williams. And then Javon getting first team all defense. Devin has just continued to pull in the boards, even though I think he got second team. He hasn't been playing exceptionally good ball. He actually got sat down for a game against Texas Tech on senior night.
Because study hall is important.
That was the quote. Study hall is important,
yep.
Which is intriguing.
In the words of Huggins.
In the words of Bob Huggins, but he was back in the starting lineup against Baylor. I mean, once again, you have to give him credit. Rico Gathers, for the second straight game between WVU and Baylor this year, did absolutely nothing. He had 5 points and 3 rebounds.
And Torian Prince went 5 of 17 both times, even though he had 19 points and 10 rebounds, I believe. Nate Adrian played great defense on him again.
Nate Adrian, you got to give the man major credit because, he has been, I think, arguably the best player on the team all around the last few weeks. Him and Jay-Sean. Adrian is just getting it done. He's got so much confidence right now. And now no one is questioning the idea that they would move him into the starting lineup instead of Jonathan Holton. Because he's been amazing lately.
And let's think about it. His first start this year, his name gets announced, fans boo him. And I just want to know where all of those fans are now.
Which is just disrespectful.
Yeah.
He is a Morgantown High School legend. I have it on good authority that they won literally several games when he was there. And, he's the only guy from West Virginia on the team who actually played. Hometown hero. shout out to Richard Romeo. I mean, he did, White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia.
He came in.
He did have a sweet jump shot to end the senior night game, which was pretty amazing because they started chanting Romeo, Romeo with like 6 minutes left in the game. And then when he got up off the bench, the fans went crazy. And then it was obvious right away because they were working so hard to try to spring him open.
Especially Devin Williams. He was running around trying to get him some type of play. Eventually it happened with that corner jumper.
Yeah, Devin finally sets the screen, springs Romeo free in the corner. Money jump shot. Richard Romeo. White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Home state hero. Gotta feel good. He only played 16 minutes before that game the entire year. That was basically the most he's played, like, ever.
So we got 19 minutes this season. He played almost an entire half of basketball.
Almost an entire solid half of basketball this year for Richard Romeo. And, he's been a great team guy, great program guy, the kind of walk-on you love. Just a perfect underdog story. It's great to see those guys have their moment. It's always on senior night. Jay Sean Page had a great game against Texas Tech, as he always does. Jonathan Holton. A senior class that's really transformed this team.
They've had so many stories, too, with the senior class. Romeo is a walk-on. He comes in. Then Holton's both Holton and Page both transfer in here. Holton had a weird story out of Rhode Island. Has to take a different route. Then gets here all of a sudden. Page was just a JUCO route. Both crazy stories to get here. They've overcome a lot, especially Holton with just the suspension. And you could tell both him and Page were emotional during senior night right before the game.
Page is a guy who went through 2 different community colleges before he came to WVU and almost went to Southern Miss instead. I think he had his letter signed to go to Southern Miss, didn't end up going, and ends up at WVU and becomes second team All Big 12. Holton is just the freak around which West Virginia was basically designed. He lives and breathes it, and it's never really going to be truly the same without him, because I don't know where they're going to find someone so perfect for the style of ball that they play. There's basically nobody quite like Jonathan Holton in college basketball, like before or since. He's just a freak. He's like some sort of tarantula ostrich with just unending energy. You cannot stop him. I don't know where he comes from. I don't know how they found somebody who can go 150% just indefinitely like he does. And he's got just the freakish wingspan and the athleticism. I mean, he is a one-of-a-kind basketball player, and they are going to miss everything he brings on the court so much.
Oh, they will. And like we mentioned in previous shows, when he was suspended, he was in defensive stances at his house while watching the team's games. I mean, shows you, this kid does not let up.
No, he doesn't. He probably was running around the whole time, just mimicking where they were going in the press.
Probably. Oh, he was probably mimicking those tip-ins, too.
Yeah. He was just jumping up and down, like slapping the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's just I don't know what he does in his free time, but that's what I imagine he does. But, WVU well represented in the all Big 12 awards that were announced Sunday. Buddy Hield winning Big 12 Player of the Year. Well-deserved. Yeah. Well-deserved. Best player all around. Really good, Page, obviously, I don't think he was ever really considered a serious contender for all Big 12 first team because he comes off the bench, but can't really dispute the players he's behind. Hield and Isaiah Taylor, the 2 guards, and then Torian Prince, George Niang, Perry Ellis. That's some amazing talent right there in the Big 12. And it just goes, the Big 12 third team is probably better than a lot of conferences' first teams. And then, like we said, Javon Carter, all defense, with Prince Ebay, the big shot blocker from Texas, being the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. And all newcomer team, Deontay Burton from Iowa State winning the Newcomer of the Year. You've got a couple players from K-State on there. That's a team that'll probably be on the rise in the future.
They got a good future. Yeah, they definitely do.
They got a couple players from Texas on there, including freshman Eric Davis Jr., who we recently learned, actually just about 10 minutes before we started recording this, Eric Davis Jr. is the son of Eric Davis the Senior, obviously. And his mother's legal name is Merry Christmas.
Last week we learned Javon Carter's name is Leroy. And this week we learned that Eric Davis Jr.'s mother's name is Merry Christmas.
We're not throwing any. I mean, I don't want people to think we're throwing any judgment.
Oh no, no,
I
this
just
is
think
just
it's a remarkable thing.
This is just very unique. You know, I like
Christmas.
this. You know, it's not the basic name. I kind of like that stuff.
I mean, I imagine that she was probably born on Christmas, and they were like, "Well, your name is Christmas, and you were born on Christmas, so we'll just name you Merry Christmas." And it's not even spelled like Mary. Yeah. It's literally spelled like the word Mary is in Merry Christmas. Merry. Like, that's her name.
We've mentioned this before. We've talked about Lynx Hawthorne, Bricks Hawthorne, that family. Like, our parents screwed us up with our names.
I mean, I don't. It opens up a whole other thing because now I want to. You know, what other amazing names are there out there? Like, Jawan Evans, is his mother's name like Easter Bunny?
That's something we have to look up.
We need
later.
to look into this. I mean, that's amazing to me. And I've never seen any reference to this anywhere. I mean, I just think we need to pause to acknowledge that.
Now, Mountaineer Maniacs, I love you guys, but, you know,
I didn't see that in the musings.
You should have put that in the musings. You know, you looked up, like, the bios on each guy, figured, you know, maybe you'd have seen Merry Christmas, but again...
Maybe they put it in there and I missed it.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it and you don't remember it.
I don't remember seeing that. I mean, of course, the Maniacs do a good job, but that would have been a great thing to see. You just chant, like, Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. I mean, it would have been better than just, like, Washburn sucks, like they did during the TCU game, which was not a creative chant. And actually kind of cruel, because what has Chris Washburn Jr. ever done to anybody?
What's he done to these people?
He seems like a nice kid. Freshman, talented, on a bad team, you know. He's surviving out there, and he's just catching this abuse.
He's playing Big 12 basketball.
Playing Big 12 basketball.
It's not bad.
He's not a bad player. He's got a nice future. His dad was an NBA player. Former Golden State Warrior, actually, Chris Washburn.
Let's not mention that.
Actually, probably one of the worst draft picks of all time.
Washburn washed out.
He did. Nice pun, by the way. I appreciate that very much.
I'm sure you do.
So, the Big 12 tournament obviously starts this week, and, you know, already some of the smaller teams' tournaments starting to wrap up. We're getting the first automatic bids rolling in. And got to give some shout-outs to some teams that are making it in. Let's give a shout-out to Yale men's basketball, winning the Ivy League, clinching it on Saturday, their first NCAA tournament bid since 1962. Got to give them a shout-out, because Princeton and Harvard have basically dominated that conference forever. So got to give them a shout-out.
Oh, you definitely have to. And what about Austin Peay just coming through as like an 8th seed in their conference tournament?
Austin Peay, yeah. Austin Peay State University. Congratulations to them. I want to give another shout-out to the team with the longest NCAA drought of any power conference team, Oregon State, with their win at UCLA on Saturday. They look pretty good to get their first NCAA tournament bid in 25 years.
Now, how about that Gary Payton windmill slam against UCLA?
Yeah, the steal at the end of the game to clinch the game, windmill slam, probably gets you into the tournament. If you haven't seen Gary Payton the second play, turn on the Pac-12 tournament this week, because he is a baller. He's basically if Denzel Valentine dunked on everyone all the time. He's one of the best players in the country. People need to know about him beyond the fact that his name is Gary Payton. One of the best players in the country. But so we got a huge week of basketball coming up. And we've also got, this coming weekend, the beginning of spring practice for the WVU football team. Dana Holgerson and the gang getting everything together, starting to hash out, you know, position switches and, you know, everything that's going to be going on, all the intrigue in spring practice. What are you, Christian Jackson, looking for in spring practice this year?
I'm looking forward to see how this defense develops. You know, they lost a lot of starters. It's going to be tough, but you also have to trust in Tony Gibson. He came in a couple years ago. He just built this defense up. I mean, obviously, these guys, they had a couple years under their belts. You know, they were starting to get more experience, but Gibson just really brought this defense together as a whole. They lost Kwiatkowski. Obviously, Joseph, he played the first 4 games and got hurt. Dylan, Chestnut, and then Worley leaves early, but I just want to see how the defense shakes out. I want to see how the quarterback spot shakes out, too, behind Skyler. I want to see how the future comes out. And also, big news, too, Will Greer was on campus, the former Florida quarterback, who did a good job there as a starter. He led them to a 6-0 record before he got suspended.
Yeah, that was one of the really surprising breaking news stories of the past week. Will Greer being on campus, obviously looking for a new team. He would have to sit out this coming year and then the first 6 games of next year. And that'll be the really interesting year, because it's more or less certain that Skyler is going to start this year again. And,
Deservedly so.
Deservedly so. I think he had a pretty solid year last year and caught a lot of heat.
Oh, yeah.
That I think was undeserved. But next year, you're going to have William Crest in the mix. You're going to have Chris Chiganov, who Holgerson loves. You're going to have David Sills, who might try to switch back to quarterback and seize that role.
I mean,
even though
he said that both he and Crest are in the quarterback room right now.
I think Sills' ceiling is much higher as a wide receiver than a quarterback.
He's just a terrific athlete.
I don't know if anyone really knows exactly what William Crest is at this point.
I think wherever you put Sills at this point, it'll work out. That kid's coaches just rave about his football IQ. He's just really smart out there. They put him all of a sudden at receiver midway through the year. He looked really good out there. He had the game-winning touchdown catch in the Cactus Bowl. He's
just a kid who knows how to play the game. Just really smart. And with his quarterback experience as a wide receiver, I mean, he knows that dynamic better than anyone. He knows it from both ends of the field. And
to people that did not know, he was the kid that committed to USC in 7th grade.
Yeah, that's how highly regarded of a quarterback prospect he was. He committed to Lane Kiffin. Of course it was Lane Kiffin. But he committed to USC in 7th grade. And wound up being a really good high school quarterback. Maybe not USC good, but still really good. He didn't grow up to be 6'5" or anything. He's about 6'1", 6'2". But he's a natural receiver. But going back to what that quarterback race is going to look like in 2 years, if you throw Will Grier into the mix, then it's every man for himself, going crazy. And then, obviously, the first 6 games, he'll be suspended. But then if he comes in after that, what do you do?
But how much of an effect do you think that 6-game suspension would have on whether he would win the spot or not? Of course, if he comes here, but...
Well, I mean, if Chris Chiganov comes in, let's say it's Chiganov.
Chuganov.
Is it Chuganov?
Yeah, they always say Chugs.
I mean, I call him... his name is Chugs. I don't think I've ever heard anyone pronounce his real name all the way
I've heard it a couple times.
But allow me to be correct. I'm just going to call him Chugs.
Yeah.
If Chugs starts... Let's just say it's Chugs. If he starts the first 6 games and plays super well, Will Grier might be looking for another home. But, I mean, it's all up in the air at this point.
But it would be too late for Grier to look for another home, too. If he was, because by that time he's a junior.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting
say this is an exciting time for them, too, because West Virginia is the only school he's visited so far that we know of. And he doesn't have any other visits scheduled, of course, that we know of also, but... We'll see what happens, but that's a good first step if this is the first school that he's planning to come to. And I'm assuming he probably liked it. I mean,
WVU missed out on T.J. Neal, the linebacker, but maybe they could grab Will Grier. That would certainly be a really big name get.
And you look at how good Florida's offense was with him. They were 6-0 with him. They averaged 32 points with him and only 18 without him.
And then they put in Treon Harris.
He was allegedly moving to wide receiver.
They haven't had a good quarterback since, Chris Leak.
We all remember Jeff Driscoll.
I mean, Tebow.
Well,
Tebow was a Tebow fan.
He was incredible, though. Incredible college quarterback.
Yes. I never liked him that much. Jeff Driscoll was horrible.
He did good at Louisiana Tech.
He did well at Louisiana Tech, but not at Florida.
Maybe just needed a new home, just everything.
That was a whole
SEC defense, too.
Remember when they played Skyler Mornhinweg?
That guy, yeah.
Skyler Mornhinweg, who was the second best quarterback named Skyler in Division I.
That's right.
That's quite a lofty goal to
really
attain.
Is.
The second best Skyler. But, some interesting stuff going on with the team. And Dana addressed some of this at the last press conference. Still no cornerbacks coach after Brian Mitchell leaves for Virginia Tech. That's still up in the air. And some interesting position switches as it pertains to probably the biggest question mark on the team, which I think is tight end. They're moving the defensive end, John Lewis, to tight end. And he was a guy who I really thought was going to get snaps at defensive end this year out of University High School in Morgantown. And he joins a tight end group that's basically just a jumble of guys and you have no idea who's going to play. Because they could move Elijah Wellman to tight end. They could play Michael Ferns is going to be Brendan Ferns' brother. Ferns, baby Ferns. Michael Ferns is going to be ready to play. Trayvon Wesco, who's basically a question mark since he didn't really play.
He's just a massive specimen. He's an
an
elephant out there.
He's just a freakish physical specimen. Didn't play at all last year at JUCO because he tore his ACL. And then you've got, you have really no idea who's going to play. So
But you definitely have to like this passing game, though, for the most part. Almost every receiver's back. Jordan Thompson graduated, but the core's back, and you got to like just the flashes that Gary Jennings showed in the Cactus Bowl, too, especially Karan White out there.
yeah, Dana was raving about those returning wide receivers. Shelton Gibson, obviously. Shorts is back. You got Gary Jennings and Karan White, who have very high upside.
You've got Javon Durant, who really had an unbelievable season opener last year against Georgia Southern.
Yeah, just needs to be able to catch the ball consistently. He also said Devontae Mathis is ready to come out and contribute, so that's kind of some veiled shade right there at Devontae Mathis, that he wasn't ready to contribute the last few years.
I guess we'll see. I mean, you can't really... I'll trust Dana with the receivers part. He's always developed great receivers.
That's like 5 or 6 guys who could contribute.
Really,
and guys who are young and athletic and talented.
And I don't think Tequil ever gets enough credit. He's always consistent out there. You throw the ball in his direction, he's going to get it.
Yeah, I feel like he was one of the most underappreciated players on the team last year. He's just the guy that he's not a flashy player, and you don't necessarily notice him out there a whole lot, but he just comes up with the steady play every single time. Third down, throw it to Tequil, get 8 yards, first down.
Because all the credit was going to mainly towards Shelton Gibson, who's great big play ability. He's just very quick out there, but Tequil never got the credit, I don't think.
Shelton Gibson will catch 60-yard touchdowns and blow your mind because he's so fast. But Tequil Shorts is the guy who's going to keep moving the chains and just getting you down the field. And as a senior, I mean, you have to expect him to be out there consistently again. Jordan Thompson had a much smaller role than we expected that he would last year because Shorts was so good in Jordan Thompson's senior year. So Skyler's not going to be lacking for targets at all this year.
No, it should be a really good passing game this year, I think. And then I just want to see how the running back spot develops behind Russell Shell. Apparently, people just love the work ethic he's putting in, which has to pay good dividends. Because remember what Wendell Smallwood did last offseason? Look at what happened to him now. Now he's going to the NFL. He had a good combine, too.
Yeah. Shell needed to show that kind of commitment because the job is his if he wants it, to be the number one guy. Obviously, Justin Crawford coming in out of JUCO is really talented, but the job belongs to Russell Shell if he's going to seize it. And everyone has said that he's had a great offseason. He showed that commitment finally. And he's a guy who could be in line for a really nice senior year.
He's Pennsylvania's all-time leading rusher, so we know the talent's there.
Yeah. And that includes some great running backs who come out of Pennsylvania. Just going to be really interesting to watch. Spring practice starts this coming weekend on Sunday, and then we'll have about a month and a half until the spring game, which is going to be April 23rd at the Greenbrier. That's going to be really fun. First time, I think it's the first time they've had it up there.
Pretty sure it is. Yeah. They've had practice there, but not a spring game.
The actual spring game is going to be up in the Greenbrier, which is going to be really fun. And we'll just see how all this shakes out. Linebacker, a huge question mark, obviously. Tight end, a huge question mark. We're starting to get a little bit of word on how these things might shape up, especially with tight end. But it's certainly something to keep an eye on in the next few weeks once they actually start hitting the field again. So that's really about all we have for this week. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Daily Athenaeum Super Sports Monday. I'm David Statman, along with Chris Jackson. Thanks for watching, guys.